Back to Cardinal Territory. It's Friday, July 11th. There is one series left before the All-Star break. Time flies when you are having fun. Katie and Bernie back at you for this Friday edition. The Cardinals won a pivotal series over the Washington Nationals on Thursday behind 5 2/3 scoreless innings from Miles Michaelis and a 5 spot in the sixth inning. The offense really came to life against that Nats bullpen. All around, a good win for the Cardinals. They really needed it. Bernie, what's your look on the team coming into the final series?
I think, listen, before the week started, I said, listen, they've gone through a rough stretch. They've gotten their butts kicked. That road trip in Pittsburgh and Chicago. And you never agree. I'm never saying, well, you got to sweep this team or do that. But I said, just win 4 out of the next 6 before the All-Star break, and then it'll stabilize things. It'll level things out a little, and you'll feel better about yourself when you go get a break at the All-Star break. So 1 down, they did win 2 out of 3. I think, listen, Atlanta, you never can say that they're going to stay in the same type of muck that they're in, but they are really, really bad here lately. And I think their last 11 games, they're averaging 3 runs. They've lost 8 times. My point is that, to say the least, the Braves are very beatable. In fact, the Braves record is not all that different than the Nationals record. So the Cardinals, I fully expect that they should handle this series by winning. I mean, come on, it's a little bit of a low bar. I think the Atlanta name is such a name brand. There's like this assumption, even with us in the media, there's this assumption that they're better than they are. I mean, and they're really not good. So so the Cardinals should win.
They've been decimated by injury, but you're right. It's the brand, it's the name. The Braves have been such a powerhouse in the National League for so long. You just kind of have a little bit of pause because you think, well, it's still the Braves. And I remember in April, which feels years ago, the Braves were off to a horrific start, and then they spanked the Cardinals at Truist Park, and we were like, uh-oh. So I said it on our show a couple days ago. I felt like this national series, this rubber match, was a must-win game. You just simply cannot drop a series to the Nationals. And based on where the Cardinals are right now, you certainly like them to take 2 of 3 at least from the Braves. You'll see Matthew Liberatore tonight, Erick Fedde on Saturday. We will get to that. And Sonny Gray will take the final start on Sunday heading into the All-Star break. Bernie and I have a lot of things to break down, but first, we got to tell you guys about a fun little giveaway we have going on here. All right. We have a great giveaway going on right now in our chat BCC group chat. Think you know ball? Prove it in our trivia game for a shot at winning an authentic MLB jersey of your choice worth up to $400. Here's how to enter. 1, sign up at foulterritory.chat. 2, play trivia, crush it, and you win. We're picking one winner from the top scores at random. Deadline is July 13th. That's Sunday at 11:59 p.m. Eastern time. So get in there, play, win, and brag. Again, that's chat BCC. Let's chat about Erick Fedde, who will take his scheduled start Saturday against the Braves. Cardinals manager Oli Marmol made that announcement Thursday before the 8-2 win. And I will preface this conversation with, just because Oli Marmol is the one making the announcement doesn't mean he's the one making the decision here. Not at all. And Bernie, I thought you guys at the Gas House Gang on Tuesday did a really nice job in getting kind of where Oli Marmol thinks about this situation. He can't go out and say what he thinks, all right? Because this is so clearly a decision coming from above him. And his job is to manage the players that he has been given. Clearly, the front office has decided that Erick Fedde is going to take that start, and I'll be able to provide you a little bit more context later in the segment. But if I'm looking at let me find this out.
Sure.
That's not it. I just deleted you. Where'd you go? Nope.
Oh, look, at least I'm small. I lost weight. That's great.
Yay, you're so small. In this episode of the Gas House Gang, which you can find on the KMOX YouTube channel, you'll hear Bernie and friends. I think Tom Ackerman is on that
Chris
show.
Ranchi.
Yes,
Chris Ranchi, yeah.
The three of you with your weekly assessment with Oli Marmol, and it's clear the frustration here on Erick Fedde taking the start with Michael McGreevy still waiting in AAA. I can't play the video, but I highly encourage you all to check it out after this podcast because you'll see some insight as to how the manager feels. But let's talk about the organization standpoint all around. We know the Cardinals are kind of straddling the fence if they're going to be buyers or sellers, and that will ultimately come down to quite possibly the final week or even the final 72 hours before the deadline. There's a story up on The Athletic with myself and Patrick Mooney talking about how the Cardinals are far from the only team in that mix. So this is not a St. Louis specific problem. We're seeing this industry-wide. Erick Fedde is the player that you can trade regardless if you're buying or selling. And the organization's line of thinking, according to multiple people that I've talked to in the organization, is that by not pitching him. The counter argument, the obvious one, is, well, Erick Fedde lately has not really had a lot of trade value because the performance has not been great at all. I believe he's allowed 17 earned runs in his last 3 starts. Those 3 starts have spanned 9 total innings, which is not very competitive. But the Cardinals would like to trade Fedde because when you think about the trade deadline, Bernie, what is the most area that's coveted the highest at the deadline? It's starting pitching. And the thought process is because the pitching market, the trade market in general, is so thin right now and so undefined, the Cardinals could capitalize and find someone who thinks that they can take a shot, a lottery ticket at Fedde in the second half, similar to what the Cardinals did last year, and hope that they can trade for him. Their philosophy is you can't trade him if he's not pitching. So that's why he's starting Saturday. And they'll hope that they've been able to figure some things out over the last week and, to use Oli Marmol's words, come out on the other side of this. Bernie, your thoughts?
Well, no, number one, I really don't know what kind of trade value he has left, if any. Now, to your point, yeah, they're hoping to catch lightning in a bottle. They hope that he has a couple starts before the All-Star break, or excuse me, before the trade deadline, where he looks good. Like he kind of pulls a Miles Michaelis, like Miles pulled against the Nationals. So all of a sudden it's like, whoa, who is this guy? You know, so all of a sudden, Miles was brilliant last night. So they're hoping the same thing will happen with Fedde. And then some teams that are desperate will, like, all of a sudden have more enthusiasm about getting Fedde. But yeah, I got so much to say on this. I have to be quick with every point. So that's number one. That's number one. I understand what they're thinking, but I also want to say, well, good luck with that, because his value is way, way, way down. So you're basically hoping for a miracle that will entice a team to give you something for him. Like the idea that they may get some marginal prospect or two where you're like, so what? I mean, that's nothing. It's nothing that's really going to help them. I mean, it's a tremendous long shot, but nothing. Well, I don't think they're going to get anything of consequence. So that's number one. And so even though I understand the thinking, I just think it's just a little bit. What's the point if he has no value? Right?
It's stale.
Right.
It's the same line of thinking from this front office that we've seen for years. And I guess jokes on us if we thought it was going to be any different in the final year. But that's the word I've been using. It's a stale decision.
And then the other. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. And then it's just, I'm really frustrated by this because I was one of the people, and I'm not bragging because I mean, man, there were so many Cardinals fans and other media people, whatever. It's like value, the idea, they got Fedde last year and their intentions were good because he was really terrific for the White Sox. And that's the point. When he got to the Cardinals, he was tired. And his first month with the Cardinals, he did not pitch all that great. He was good in September, but it was too late. But the time to trade Fedde was last winter. And by trading him last winter, who knows what you may have come up with, right? You may have come up with somebody who could have been in the picture to be a decent depth starter or what. And you would have opened a slot for McGreevy. And McGreevy, I'm going to say it, McGreevy was ready to pitch in the major leagues this year going into the season. So Mo bothers me with this because first of all, it was his decision. Yeah. There's no question.
No one's going to go out there and say it, but we know. We don't even want to say it. This is a John Mozeliak and company decision.
Right. And so he missed a grand opportunity to trade Fedde when Fedde's value was really high. How high maybe is debatable, but it certainly was a lot higher than it is now. So he missed an opportunity. And instead of just sort of putting winning right now first, because Fedde this year, the Cardinals have lost 13 out of his 18 starts. They've lost 8 out of his last 10 starts. Katie, I'm not going to bore you or anyone with the numbers. I'll put them in my column on the right later today. It is unbelievable the way left-handed hitters have destroyed him, right? So he's kind of a defenseless pitcher right now. And, my frustration with this and what I guess it's a first guess about this is like, well, wait a minute now. You set it up as a runway season, but yet you're straddling the line. It's like, well, this is a runway season. Well, okay, that means you're kind of writing off and you're not going to win this year. Oh, no. We think we can win. Well, the state of the Cardinals right now is this. McGreevy checks both boxes. He's a runway guy, and he's a better pitcher than Erick Fedde. He's a better pitcher than the guy who, when he has started, the team has lost 13 out of 18 games. So he fits both categories. He helps you win, which they claim they want, and he fits into the runway concept. Yet he's blocked in Memphis. And then you made me laugh, The Athletic, with your quote, the way you ended that story Sunday night, Monday morning, whenever it went up. And I know all of your readers loved it too, where you said, Mozeliak was basically saying, he's really good, but we don't have a spot for him, as if like it was someone else's responsibility to open the slot, right? Well, wait a minute, dude. You run this thing. You're the one that determines if there's a spot. It's not like, well, what can we do? There's not a spot for him. Well, that's because that's your decision.
It's like that meme from Parks and Rec where the guy's in the hot dog suit and he's like, we're all trying to figure out who did this. That is exactly what I thought about. And then
that's funny.
Start laughing.
So
yeah, I get it.
I hate to say this, it's harsh, but I said it in the video I did on my own earlier today, but it's like, Mo's ego is in the way here. Because Mo, for a guy who wants to see his team win, and by the way, this is a ridiculous situation for any manager to be in, where he has to every day, well, is our priority, winning this game, or do I have to do, or oh, wait a minute, I got to take care of the runway, or like what? There's no clearly defined mission. And so Oli Marmol is just kind of like, okay, which way do we go tonight? It's a terrible situation for a manager to be in. And that's why it pains me to see Cardinals fans pile on this guy. And the other thing that really ticked me off yesterday, because Oli made the announcement, because, hey, hello, when managers meet with the media before the games, they're the ones who speak for the organization about a decision that's just been made.
Of a decision that he did not make.
But I even saw a couple comments under your story about this. Well, he's Mo's puppet. How is he Mo's puppet?
No, I totally disagree.
Oli was getting pretty sassy on live radio, making it known because unless he wants to be Mike Schilt and get fired, he'd like to try to keep his job. He was letting people know, like, wink, wink, he wanted McGreevy up here, but it wasn't his call. So how does that make him a puppet? He goes on KMOX, the rights holders, the team station in terms of broadcast rights, and in like 3 or 4 different ways, he basically said, I want McGreevy, and he didn't get McGreevy. But so how does that make him a puppet? I want someone to explain that to me. The guy that runs the baseball operation gets to decide on what the roster is. Well, Bernie, but he wanted McGreevy, Oli did. Okay. The only person who can promote McGreevy is John Mozeliak. So what do you want Oli to do? Do you want him to quit? You want him to walk out on his players? Do you want him to jump Mo in the parking lot? Like start a brawl? Like what exactly would you want him to do? To call him a puppet when actually he's been getting really sassy about this, which Mo hates, by the way. It's the exact opposite.
You tell me Mo doesn't like sass? I've never.
When managers dare question him about anything, and if it leaks out in the public a little bit, how is that puppet-like behavior? It's just absurd. And one of the reasons I think Mo thinks he can get away with this, he's catching heat, but he knows that there's a lot of people in the fan base that will blame Oli for everything. So he sort of has cover there. Because even in this situation, when it was 100% obvious who made the decision, somehow Oli's getting slapped around. Mo's not stupid.
Delivering the message, right? He's
right.
The one that's delivering the message to us, to you. And so
I know.
I I tell Cardinals fans, and it's difficult because you're not in the room, and it's our job as reporters to try to convey the messaging as best as we can.
Right.
But Oli Marmol will tell you what's going on if you read between the lines. There are things he has to say. There's things that he gets paid to do. He gets paid to talk to us as part of his job and be the mouthpiece for the organization on a daily basis. John Mozeliak will do it every now and then. I for all of our gripes about him at the moment, he remains one of the most accessible GMs in baseball. But it's Ollie's job to talk to the media twice a day. So that's why he's getting a lot of pushback for this decision that I think we're all in agreement is not what's best for short term. And I'm going to do my best to be the beat writer here and try to lay this out from the organization's perspective, though I think it's very clear that we don't really agree with it. But it's not my job to agree or disagree. It's my job to explain. So let me try my best. The front office is still looking at the long-term view of the organization. And the worst thing the Cardinals can do in this 2025 season is make a move that is going to backtrack or delay the progress they've made to move forward. This year was about runway and transitioning, 2 words I hope to never speak again after 2025. But if you are the Cardinals and you get caught up and we need to win right now for this game, which I know what they've been is what most teams should be doing, but that's not the primary focus of the season. You risk making a move that backtracks the progress that you've already made. And come October of 2025, we are sitting there at the postseason press conference in the exact same spot that we were in October 2024. And that to me is the biggest mistake the organization can make, hands down. You have to keep building on the progress, which is the long-term view. And if what's best for the long term is trying to trade Erick Fedde, even though he's not the best pitcher in the organization right now, then that's what you do. And I don't really think it's about the return here for Fedde. I think it's more of the addition by subtraction role. You create an opening for McGreevy, and then you go from there, and you hope to get something, maybe a lottery ticket for your farm system and bolster it. But by tanking someone's trade value by not pitching them, you are falling into the habits that got you here in the first place that required a transition season to begin with. So as frustrating as it is, believe me, it's not a decision I agree with if we haven't made that clear. But I can understand the organization's long-term view. It's why the season has been so frustrating for so many fans because there's so much mixed messaging. There's been a lack of ability to pin a direction. The Cardinals, as they approach arguably the most important trade deadline in John Mozeliak's tenure, not for this season, but for the trajectory of the organization going forward the next 3 or 4 years, they have to get it right, and they cannot risk messing up something that results them being in the exact same position they were in October of last year. That cannot happen.
It's a tough season to try to make sense of from a standpoint, because I agree with you, my friend, in terms of like I understand how they feel. The only hope they have to get something for Fedde is to have him pitch and just hope that he does a good job. I mean, I understand that as a philosophy, but it contradicts the fact that they have a team that has exceeded expectations, a team that's still only a game out in the race, wild card race, and I know that when they go through their like weird phases where they look like they can't do anything right, they always bounce back, and they still have exceeded expectations. I mean, they're hanging in the wild card race with, except for Milwaukee, with teams. The teams in the wild card race, other than Milwaukee, are spending a fortune more on payroll than the Cardinals. And the Cardinals were the team that everyone forgot about, everyone denigrated, non-factor. If they're rebuilding, they don't want to say it, but this is a rebuilding season. So if you try to have some perspective, they have clearly exceeded expectations, and these players bust their tails. Oli and the staff, despite what others think, no one can convince me that they're doing something other than a good job. They're doing a really good job.
They are.
So what if you have it? If you have, listen, and I know they can add at the trade deadline. I get that. But if you have a chance to win, and you really need to win because it's going to be a tough race, and a lot of these teams I think are going to play better. At some point, winning has to take on more urgency, and that includes any start that Erick Fedde pitches and gets clobbered and they lose the game. So it's kind of where they put themselves in. See, they created this because they're in the middle. I mean, they're a pretty good team. They're not a great team. They're in this, as you and Patrick Moody wrote today. It was a really good piece.
Thank you.
There's a whole big cluster of teams just like the Cardinals. They don't want to give up on the season. They have a chance to make the playoffs, but are they a great team? No. Are they a flawed team? Yeah, but they're pretty good. And this team's actually exceeded expectations. But the Cardinals put themselves in this because, well, what is this season really supposed to be about? What if these two missions clash? Runway, trying to win. Runway, try to win. It's really hard to do both. It's really, really difficult to do both. So this is why we're all talking about this, because they have created a scenario that has led to this.
They have. You're spot on, Bernie, as always. We'll get into it. We promise we will not spend the entire episode bagging on Erick Fedde, who, let the record show, I do hope he goes out there and performs well on Saturday. I mean,
he's a fine guy. Yeah, nobody roots against him. He's a fine guy.
Exactly. And the way he's handled the last three starts, total professionalism through and through. It is not easy to go out there and get your butt kicked and then immediately have to ask questions about why you were not good. And Fedde has been there every single start at his locker. And he does the interview. There's one thing to just go through the motions, but he does the interview. He puts thought behind his answers, and he in real time tries to provide some sort of insight. So for all parties involved, I hope he goes out there and shoves on Saturday. Do I have a day off on Saturday? I do. So
you do?
Is that stars aligning? Maybe. We'll see.
Well, who's going to be there to write the great story when Fedde shuts out the Braves on 4 hits?
Not me. That's all I know. All right, a quick message from Next Playground, and we'll jump into some Iván Herrera updates.
Okay.
Summer. We almost forgot what it feels like to play just because. But even summer needs backup. A little partner in the good kind of chaos. Someone to bring the kung fu kicks. Hiya! To train some dragons. Fly, young dragon rider, fly. The kind of fun that keeps the days going. That turns living rooms into playgrounds. And reminds us what our bodies and our hearts were made for. Play that moves you.
All right, so Iván Herrera, everyone celebrate, should be back with the Cardinals very soon. He started a rehab assignment with AAA Memphis. He went 1 for 3 as the DH. It is planned that he will DH for the next 3 games, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And the Cardinals will make a decision on what his next week looks like, maybe even after tonight, just seeing how he feels. We talked about it last episode. The Major League All-Star break, AAA All-Star break, and AA All-Star break are all the same week next week. So Herrera could play 4 games and then go without game action for 4. Or he could potentially go down to Florida, get some live at-bats there during the All-Star break. Or he could just be ready to go. I asked Oli Marmol if the break would give him any pause about when to bring up Herrera, and he said, some players, yes. Herrera, I don't think it impacts him that much. That's not a surprise if Iván Herrera can do one thing, it's hit a baseball. So that's the first injury update. The second part to this is that you'll notice I said Herrera will be DHing all 4 games. Well, when he comes back to the Cardinals, which, by the way, a return to kick off the second half on next Friday, a week from today, in Arizona, is in play. When Herrera does return, the Cardinals have said his time behind the plate will be limited. And that is to protect his health. The Cardinals, or Herrera, has already had 2 lower half injuries this season. And let's be honest, a part of it is also because he is well behind Pedro Pages and Joel Pozo, who aren't exactly all-star catchers either defensively. So the best thing for Herrera moving forward is to really cut back on his time behind the plate. He will be the everyday DH going forward. And they will reevaluate what Herrera is doing and what position he will be after this season. I think it's the right call from an offensive perspective because we have seen what this lineup looks like without Herrera's bat, and it is severely not as good. So a little bit of a weird update, but I also understand where the team is coming from here.
Katie, during his time he's been out, and this stat is still fresh because they faced a right-handed starting pitcher last night. But when it started June 20th when they didn't have him. Left-handed starting pitchers during that time have a 2.15 ERA against the Cardinals. I mean, they've just buried the Cardinals because the Cardinals do not have, with all due respect to their right-handed hitters, first of all, they have too many left-handed hitters. They don't have balance. And and several of their right-handed hitters who are capable, it's been a time where they've struggled a bit. So, and I'm not saying everything would have been, just dandy, perfect with Herrera in the lineup, but this guy just mauls left-handed pitching, just destroys it. And clearly some of these games where they scored, no more than 2 runs, at least a few of those games, they would have gotten more runs than that with him in the lineup because this is one of the best right-handed hitters, it's a very, very small sample. But if you just look at, his weighted runs created plus, this is like a top 5 right-handed hitter in Major League Baseball. I mean, it sounds crazy, but he really is. So it's a big loss. It's not an excuse, but it's the reality. So they'll be I think they'll be a much better team offensively with Herrera in there. And yeah, it'll create some bottlenecks again. Like, what does this mean for Gorman? Does he not DH now? I mean, we're going to go back. It's like you always go back to the beginning with this team. So we'll wait and see. And, and listen, I'm definitely on board if they're serious. If it turns out they're serious about in the offseason, it's like, all right, let's work with him about playing left field. I think the more options they have with him, the better they'll be for him and for them going forward. So we'll see what happens. But this is a very special hitter. There's no question about it.
I agree. And that's why I'm not at all going to argue with the decision to not put him behind the plate. I mean, he is, if part of this season is to figure out that Iván Herrera is not your catcher of the future, but is your middle of the order bat of the future, that's still a success because we spent this whole season trying to figure out which players we're going to turn into what. And Herrera is a bat that you build your lineup around. I mean, the Cardinals that we talked about before don't really have a star. They don't really have anyone that like gets you out of your seat, like excited. But I do not want to miss an Iván Herrera at bat because you just don't know what could happen. And it's going to be a quality at bat and something that he's shown in his limited sample size this season. He's a clutch bat. How many times has he come through with runners in scoring position or late inning? I mean, he's like the 8th inning hitter for this club. So yes, I get what the Cardinals are doing, trying to preserve his health and also acknowledging that he hasn't taken a lot of steps forward behind the plate. He also hasn't had a lot of opportunity to do so. But if you are trying to make a second half push, which it still seems like they are, you need to keep Herrera healthy. Oli Marmol said as much. So it's about protecting his lower half as much as possible going forward. So if we're looking for off-season storylines in July, I'm not quite sure what that says about us, but this will be one. Where will Herrera play in 2026? We don't know, but we do know that when he does return, hopefully in just a matter of days, he will be the everyday DH. What that means for Nolan Gorman, who's to say? What that means for Jordan Walker when he comes back for his rehab assignment, who is to say? My gut feeling tells me that Jordan Walker will be relegated to a bench role going forward, but hey, we'll see. I don't know.
But I just gotta warn you about something. Since I'm older, so I can give advice, right? Rolled my eyes there. Anyway, do not make any vacation plans this off season. Seriously, do not make any. You know what? This off season, and this old man here has been around a long time with the Cardinals. This is going to be one of the craziest off seasons they've ever had. You have Heimblum take it over, right? And let's be honest here. We don't have to do let's make a deal now, but let's be honest here. There is no way that they can keep the same team in place. Not from a standpoint where they hate all the players, but they have all these log jams everywhere. They're overloaded with left-handed bats. They have like, I'm exaggerating. They have like 10 guys who can play in the middle infield.
No, they have like 50 DHs. I get it.
Right. And there's just no way they have to make some really tough roster decisions. And those tough roster decisions will mean trades. I mean, seriously, because all these players, these are not guys you just like designate for assignment. They're all major league players, but you have too many of them that hit left-handed and you have too many of them that play the same position. So you got to thin out the roster. So what that means is you will be working all off season. You will not get a break.
No, and you know what? It's funny because you're spot on for all of that. And actually, talking to a couple of anonymous executives over the last week, the Cardinals have so many players that other teams are interested in. One exec said that the Cardinals are going to be a linchpin at the deadline.
I saw that quote.
And if they decide to sell, I don't think they're going to decide to sell. Going back to my aforementioned stale comment about how the organization baseball operations is being run. But you are spot on about the offseason, and I've already thought about it because not only where there'll be a ton of changes taking place, we're dealing with a brand new front office. And we don't know how Heimblum navigates or works. You can go into an offseason when you've worked for as long as we have with John Mozeliak and kind of have a basic understanding of how his operations are going to work. If anything, he has been consistent. And I don't want to diminish his track record. We know that he has accomplished a lot for this game. I know it's not been a great week at the moment for morale around him, but I don't want to just diminish the fact of what he's done throughout his career. We don't know. Chaim Bloom is going to be completely different. So not only is it going to be a very busy offseason, it's going to be unpredictable because we are going to learn how he navigates with a new organization and a new ownership. So this is my karma for having to do exactly 0 things over last offseason. It's going to be, I'm well prepared. I don't know how much work I'm going to have to do at the trade deadline, to be honest. I don't know. But I do know that come November or the 5 days after the World Series, when the offseason officially begins, it will just kind of feel like a continuation of the season. So we won't be bored. We at least we have that.
No, it'll the off season will be just as crazy and maybe even more action packed than the actual regular season. And the Cardinals have had some really good storylines this season too. So yeah, have fun. I'm going to just sit back and kind of watch. I'll just watch all you guys do the beat reporting and just sit back and say, "Oh, that's interesting. Let me write a column on that. Oh, let me put my my analysis on that." Right. So.
Mm-hmm.
And I can just
seasons where like I never leave without my iPad, so that's
right.
healthy.
That's right. That's right.
Hey, let's get into we have a DraftKings segment.
Uh-oh.
So let's
good.
Get into that. All right, let's get into our player to watch this series presented by DraftKings. I am going to go with tonight's starting pitcher, Matthew Liberatore. So he's about to make his final start of the first half. Let's do a quick run through of his stats. He's made all 17 of his starts. He's gone 6-6 he's logged 97 1/3 innings, a 3.70 ERA. He has been the Cardinals' second best pitcher in that rotation. I know he went through a little bit of a clunker, but guys, that's going to happen. Not every pitcher is going to notch 35 stellar starts. But in his last 4 starts, we're seeing Liberatore kind of unlock a new level of his game. He's 4-0, 24 innings, 3 out of 4 quality starts, 18 strikeouts, and a 2.25 ERA. Matthew Liberatore has a chance to finish out what has been a very impressive first half, very encouraging. There will be some concern over his innings going forward because it will be his first time notching, 30 plus starts in the major leagues in his career. But there is a difference. And I think the way that Oli Marmol describes this and Dusty Blake describes this makes a lot of sense. There's a difference between the quantity of innings and the quality of innings. Matthew Liberatore has not had a ton of high stress innings. So yeah, we'll be mindful as he reaches that point. But I'm not super worried about the overall innings because most of them have been pretty easy. We've talked about this with how the Cardinals have been so diligent with his work usage and how to use him going forward as they figure out what kind of starter he's going to be for them. And I think as we sit here in the middle of the season, we can count on Matthew Liberatore being a middle of the rotation starter for them next year. And homegrown pitching, developing pitching inside your organization is so hard to do. So credit to Matthew Liberatore for doing that. I'm excited to see how he profiles against a Braves lineup that, as we talked about earlier in the show, is kind of going through it, but he has a chance to round out what has been a very encouraging first half.
I'm going to follow your lead, but I'm going to throw one in about like a specific stat line tonight for Matthew Liberatore. DraftKings Pick 6, a fantasy game, they list him with like 4.5 strikeouts. So in other words, if you think Libby will get 5 strikeouts and you go with the higher total, you would win. Now, I would say that there is a reason to go with the higher. I mean, again, everyone do what you want because you can find all the information on DraftKings. You can look up stats and everything else. But here's why I think Libby is a guy that's got a really good chance of getting 5 strikeouts. Because to your point, he's really rounding back into form after a little turbulence. But here's the deal. The Atlanta Braves hitters this year have the 4th highest strikeout rate in the National League against left-handed pitchers, okay? And they have individual players, including some of their very best hitters, have these huge strikeout rates against lefties, right? And the Braves, in their last 11 games, they have struck out 10 times or more. So Libby has been around that 5 strikeout range, right? Tonight, he's getting a team that seems to be, based on their track record, vulnerable against left-handed starters like him. So that one caught my eye. The other one I like is this. Even though Holmes is a really good pitcher for the Braves, he's really, really good. Wilson Contreras is heating up, and you know what that means. When he starts to heat up, he sort of goes on a spree. DraftKings Pick 6 has him listed with a line of 1.5 hits, runs, and RBIs. Combination of those things tonight. 1.5 hits, runs scored, RBIs. So all he's got to do is have a combination of those three things that get you to 2. I mean, he has done that in 4 of his last 5 games, and he's actually getting hotter. So that is my other pick 6, DraftKings pick 6 fantasy game alert to you all. So anyway.
I like it, Bernie. I mean, Wilson Contreras is going well. Anytime he hits the ball to right center, he barreled that solo homer in the 7th last night. So a good indication he is seeing it. Download the DraftKings Pick 6 app now and use code FOUL. That's code FOUL for new customers to get $25 in bonus picks with their first deposit of $5. Better payouts, bigger wins, only with Pick 6 from DraftKings. The crown is yours.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Must be 18 and over. Age and eligibility restrictions vary by jurisdiction. Void where prohibited. New customers only. Minimum $5 deposit. Bonus picks expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see pick6.draftkings.com/promos.
All right, one last segment before we head out because it is almost time for me to go to the ballpark. The Cardinals are 50-44. They won their 50th game yesterday. It's July 11th, as we know, just 3 games before the All-Star break. Here's a fun fact. In 2022, July 16th, the final day before the All-Star break, the Cardinals were 50-44. And today, the Cardinals are 50-44. So why does it feel different? Why does this feel different compared to 2022, Bernie?
That's a great stat.
Thank you.
I like that one. Wow, that's a great question. Well, it doesn't make any sense. Well, what makes sense is they were drawing big crowds to Busch Stadium. They're not doing that this year because they had star power. Goldie was the MVP that year. Arenado could have been the MVP. He finished 3rd in the voting. Both of them were fantastic. Oh, and then you had the final chapter of maybe the greatest right-handed hitter in the history of the game, and a fellow named Albert Pujols, who just went berserk like in the final 3 months. And so that team, Wainwright was really good that year. I mean, that team was just so much fun to watch. So the fans really, really responded as you would expect them to. The final year of Yadier Molina. But that's why that's why I had that reaction. I did not remember that they were kind of like, at this time in 2022, which makes what Oli Marmol and this team has done, it makes it even more impressive. It really does.
It does.
Because Milwaukee Brewers are good. The Cubs are good. Those two teams are those 2 teams are better this year than they were in 2022. So I think I'm actually, despite the fact that I get ticked off by some of the things the Cardinals do, their inconsistency is maddening and bewildering and frustrating. They're doing better than I thought. So I look at the attendance rankings, and I'm not ripping on fans. I'm not, because fans can do what they want. It's their decision. It's their time. It's their money. But it's still a little weird for me. Like when I checked the other day, and the Cardinals were ranked 15th in average tickets sold to home games this year. They were behind the Colorado Rockies.
I know. That's so
and it's
bad.
like, I can't understand that a team, I don't know if the Rockies won last night or played, but they were 21-72 at the time. I, kind of put a note in about that. A 21-72 team is outdrawing a team that by universal agreement has exceeded expectations. It's a young team. It's a hungry team. I think they're pretty entertaining. They're not entertaining when they're scoring 1 run like 5 games in a row. Listen, no one's saying they're a super team, but I find the team, I find them appealing. I also find their struggles appealing. And that'll say, what do you mean by that? Because there's always drama. That's why there's always drama. Right. They're very extreme. Great, or like what happened?
It's very dramatic. We love dramatic. They're not boring. What else could we ask for? Except maybe a couple more wins. But I did think it was fascinating to compare these 2 teams. You are right about the stars. You had 2 MVP candidates. You had 2 Hall of Famers. And let's not pretend the messaging around the team in 2022 was the same as it is right now. It was far better. I think what you're seeing here is a fan base that is just kind of fed up Like, show me some change.
I get it. I do.
And I think if the Cardinals go and make a run come September, the city will rally. But right now, it's the same apathy that we've seen all season. I guess the record isn't going to change that. The only thing that's really going to change is, I think, change from within the organization. But that's not coming until October. So.
Yeah, and again, not to drag this out, and I apologize. And then you have a situation where, with people who are trying to be objective, he's done a good job. I'm not saying he's the greatest manager ever. He's done a good job working in this strange situation. And, he's probably going to have a second winning season in a row after recovering from 71 and 91, which certainly wasn't his fault. And I want to remind everyone too, and I know I'm repeat this all the time, but at the end of this season, Oli Marmol will have a better winning percentage than Tony La Russa had in his first 4 seasons as the Cardinal manager. And Tony La Russa was a guy who had already won a World Series and 2 pennants, and he also led the White Sox in '83 to this out of nowhere 99 win season or whatever it was. So he had all kinds of experience. Oli did not. So I have a hard time knowing what I know, having covered those La Russa teams. I have a really hard time understanding this notion that he is some kind of awful manager. Was Tony La Russa an awful manager? And DeWitt and Walt Jocketty went out and gave him everything he wanted in terms of the roster before 1990.
That has not happened for Oli Marmol in the last couple of years.
So I don't know. I have a hard time reconciling he's the worst manager who ever lived or whatever, but when he's going to have a 4-year body of work in the first 4 seasons as manager that's going to be better than Tony La Russa. It's going to be better by Tony La Russa by not just a smidge either. It's going to be better than La Russa's first 4 seasons. Winning percentage difference is going to be somewhere around 12, 13 percentage points.
Look,
I wonder how many fans will, even if they bring Oli back, will have a fit, have a tantrum. I'm not going down there.
Always, that will always happen. But
anyway,
look, there are reasons to be optimistic. I know it's been a frustrating start to July. Let's just collectively get to the All-Star break, reset, because I think we could have a really exciting second half, or at least bare minimum, a really exciting first 2 weeks of the second half. If they keep winning, we'll see some trade deadline action, and we'll see just how much the Cardinals want to commit to going for it this year. If they have a bad 2 weeks, they will sell. So I guess that is something. But there is a chance here as we sit here with the St. Louis Cardinals 6 games over 500 with 3 games to go before the All-Star break, that no matter what your frustration level is with some of the decision-making, some of the personnel, this team is in a much better spot than we thought they were going to be. And that's exciting. So Bernie and I'll be back. Bernie, I haven't talked to you yet, but hopefully we will. We will have something for you at Cardinal Territory right after the draft on Sunday. And then I'm taking a couple days off for the All-Star break.
Okay,
so
cool.
Again, collectively as a unit, you guys, let's just get through Sunday. We can do it.
All right. Thank you.
All right. For Bernie, I'm Katie. This is Cardinal Territory. We'll talk to you at the end of the week.